Okay, what we're gonna do today is this chapter. We're gonna kind of, there's some key terms that we need to go through. For that, but there's all right, these are a few of the terms you need to actually go through in this book. So I'm not gonna go through the whole chapter. We're just gonna talk about, like, discuss data, information, data to information conversion, and things like that. Let me go through that real quick. The first half hour, we're gonna do that quickly. This is kind of a bit of a theoretical stuff we need to cover. After we're done with that, then we're gonna actually go log into your VLab. No luck. Yeah. All right, let's see, before we go to VLab, we're gonna take a 5 minutes break. I'm gonna see if Edwin can help with that, okay? All right, so we're gonna, let's go through this theoretical stuff, because we need a bit of a background information before we can actually understand the other stuff thoroughly. So let's do that first. Let me go to my Moodle, open up. So this is the book, right? And anybody even looked at the book? You're looking at the book now? Oh. But anyway, from this first chapter, it just we talk about what the nuts and bolts of this this course. So the first thing is, the key concept is data, right? We talked about data before, and we all know what data is, right? It's just raw information, raw stuff. 20.5, it could mean average rainfall in Amazon, or it could mean somebody's weight, or somebody's some animals height, or whatever it is. So data is just raw fact. It doesn't make sense to us till we add other information, other stuff to it. So so that's data. It could be numbers, it could be characters, it could be your name. Your name is a data also. Date of birth, right? Those are dates, those are data also. So data, to convert data to information, without converting data to information, you cannot actually do useful thing with it. Now I give you a bunch of numbers and what? But once I start adding other information to it, do some processing on it, then we'll be able to get valuable information that will actually come in use for us. So we get data could be converted. These things, you kind of remember this. There are 5 main processes. One is condensation. It says what it is, like items of data are summarized, when you create a summary report or something like that. So that's condensation. Then we get contextualization. That means adding more information to the data and what context this data is being used for. That's very important. Okay, so that's contextualization, the purpose or reason for collecting the data. And yes. Condensation is like when you actually summary. Let's say I give you the rainfall, last 10 years rainfall in Georgia. Then I tell you, hey, summarize it. Give me the average rainfall in the last 10 years. That will give me some idea about if the weather is changing in Georgia or not, right? So that became valuable information. Okay, I can decide from there that, hey, you know what? We need to conserve our water or something, whatever. And then contextualization is the why we're collecting this data. You gotta have a purpose for it. That's the context. Otherwise, you collect a bunch of data and it's going to just sit there, not going to come in use. And then you have calculations. We do calculations. We sometimes find out from date of birth, we find out the age. We get date of birth of all our students. Then we can just find out all our students' age, and we can find an age range. Usually what type of student, what, age group, comes here mostly, right? Let's say we have our master's program, right? In the master's program, who are coming in? Are these like professionals who are already in their 30s or something like that? Or we got people in their, late 20s, things like that. These are important information, right? So this is calculation. We do calculation, finding out, age and stuff like that. And then we get categorization. It's important also. When you do market research, when you're like, trying to sell some products and stuff like that, you want to know which groups of people actually like your products and which groups do not. You categorizing the data. You can categorize the data, age or by, gender or by race or nationality, whatever it is. And then we get correction. Absolutely. This is very important. If you go in the data science track, you will have to do a lot of corrective, tasks on data. Because when we collect data, a lot of time we miss data. Let's say you send out some people to collect data from the field. Do a survey on the student population that we have. He or she might miss some data or mistype it or miswrite it. We have to correct data a lot. So these are the actually main 5 processes that we use to turn data into information. And then you can skip this. Reasons why organization needs data is very common sense. Data gives us insight into how things are going, how things can go, which way things might go, so things like this. So we don't need to. Then information, data, useful data. When you change data, convert it, turn it into something that I can use actually. That's what we need becomes information. Okay, so the key terms are relevance and purpose. All right. So how is this data relevant to my business or my life or whatever I'm doing right now? But anyway, simpler terms, data, when it is converted to something that is useful for us, that's what information is. And from information, from your past experiences, you gain knowledge. All right, you use information in different scenarios, and eventually you gain knowledge over the years or whatever. So that's actually knowledge. It's a mix of experience, values, contextual information, blah, 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 all these. Just kind of read that, knowledge. And the last step that we gain actually in our quest for becoming better at doing things is wisdom. What is wisdom? Wisdom actually depends on the data, information, and the knowledge that we gain. Then we gain the wisdom. Wisdom gives us the ability to tell by looking at somebody there, what type of person he or she is. Or, like after the first class, I need to be able to understand how I should actually deal with you guys, or how I should deliver my, lectures and stuff like that. So this kind of wisdom, see, wisdom is ability to identify the truth and make correct judgments on the basis of previous knowledge. All right, so this is the pyramid, scheme. Remember this. This will come in handy for you when you actually in real life deal with things. Okay, so all these things, those are, kind of like a philosophical theoretical stuff. But here now we are getting into technical terms. Record. What is a record? A record represents someone or something, some entity. It could be a book. It could be a person. It could be a student, right? Or it could be a car. The car has model, make, blah, 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 all kind of things. So a record, contains data attributes or information about particular something, particular somebody. All right. It will, like I said, it could be a student, it could be a laptop, anything like that. So this record, this is technical terms that we're gonna start using in when we deal with databases. And then group of records. Let's say my student records. That means all the students in this class, their information. Those are records. Each individual student record is information is a record. But all the student records, when I put together it becomes a file. You'll know actually we're talking about 5 minutes actually a database table. Okay, we'll look at it in a little bit. All these will start making sense, soon. And then we get data dictionary. The reason I'm throwing these terms out there, in the industry, you have to deal with this. Data dictionary is when we start working on developing the data database for something, how we're going to keep the data, the structure of it and everything. We describe it. We describe it. Let's say, okay, you know what? First name, how many characters should it be? 55 characters, 100 characters. If you're from the Middle East, it'll be like B normal, B normal, and it'll be like huge, you know, it could be a huge name. So these are data dictionary describes all these things. So, okay, for this system, let's say for the student portal system that we have in Westcott, the information that we need to keep records of, we have to describe it first. What do we keep in track of? We keep in track of students' personal information, teachers' personal information, their degree information, blah, 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 all these things. The data dictionary kind of describes all the information that we are dealing with in the database. So, all right. Database management system, all right. Types of databases, you know, kind of brush through it. It's analytical and operational. Operational, it means, you know, you use it day-to-day basis. Every day, e-commerce site, this database is being used every day, every minute, every second of the day, right? So it's continuously being used. Analytical is like, you take it slow and easy. Okay, let's say relax and, you know, run some queries on it, run some, you know, reports on it. That's analytical. It's not like you're doing it all the time. All right. And usually it is done on archive data. Archive means, you know, past data, previous data, old data. All right. So that's, you know, that. So let me see what else I had here that I was gonna go through. The components, all right. Let's see, components of a database management system. They're object-oriented, blah, 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 you know, you read them, that way you have an idea. But we actually, here I talked to Dr. Lee today as well. We are gonna concentrate on, you know, SQL purely. How to, you know, do complex queries to get out important information from the database. So that's our concentration is in this course. That's why I'm not gonna go through all these, you know, things. So, okay, DBMS, I talked yesterday. Data we store, we structure, you know, put a structure on the data, and we store it, right, in the hard disk. Who does all this for us? Database management system, which is a software. All right. So this software, this database management system, we're going to use MySQL in this course. So DBMS is the big guy. It handles everything for you. You know, creating data structures to keep your data in, and saving the data in the file in the hard disk and stuff like that. All this is managed by DBMS. And the several components it got. This is common things. Software. It got software. It has to be software, right? It deals with the, you know, saving data in hard disk or reading data from it, blah, blah, blah. So software, then you got the hardware. Where are you saving the data in? Then you get data, of course, the most important thing. And then you get several procedures associated with it. Procedures means actually how you can use this database management system. You have to log into it. Well, how do you back up your data? All right, all these things, you know, these are falls under the procedures. And then you got database access language, which is SQL, we talked about the other day. That's the structured query language that we're going to use in this course. And that's our main concentration. All right, you don't need to read all these details. You know, just know that these components are part of, you know, and then you get users, you know, people like us. Or another important thing is database management system actually hides from you how it is saving the data. That way you don't have to worry about, you know, where did it save it? How did it save it? What structure it used, blah, blah, blah. You don't need to worry about it. It handles it for you. And these are the common functions every database management system has to do, which is data dictionary management. That means managing the information about all the data that it keeps track of. And then data storage management, of course, data transformation, presentation, security, important, because, you know, you don't want everybody to just come in and look at your data. Then we get, you know, it also have to handle multi-user. Very important. If you looked at the video, if you went to the video, it talks about that, security. Very, very important. Your credit card information, you don't want everybody to just, you know, come in here and, you know, read that info. Then you got the backup recovery. It has to, you know, let you do data integrity management. which is so that my data doesn't get corrupted. Okay. All right. In one place, my name is Raihan. Another place is my name is Rayhan. You know, different ways spelled. It cannot be like that. And then database access language, which is SQL, and database communication interface, which is how this is the software that actually allows you to talk to the database. That's the communication interface. Just remember these things. These are key terms you're going to run into. All right. Let's see what else I had listed out that I was going to go through. All right. Okay, let's see. But remember the stuff that I'm talking about now, these key terms, you have to do some reading on them, all right? So they will be in quizzes, okay? No? Any questions so far? And I'm just just going through this real quick. File system versus in a regular database class, I'll go through all these, but we don't need to. We're gonna get right to the bottom of things. We don't need to go through any of these. Forget this. Let's see. Okay. Okay, so data model, you'll run into these terms as well a lot. Data model is nothing, it's just a higher level description of, let's say, in this portal system, I have to keep track of teacher's information. All right, so teacher, what information about teacher? I just list them out. It's kind of like this is the model we're going to use. Okay, so the model is a high level description of how your data is going to be structured. And our concentration would be on this, the relational model. In relational model, all the entities that we represent, remember, student is an entity, teacher is an entity, a car is an entity. Okay, registration is an entity because it's a abstract entity. It's something you cannot touch. Your accounts, abstract entity. Your bank account, abstract entity. You cannot touch them, right? This is just conceptual things. But some things you can. Your laptop you can touch. It has a make, model. It has CPU information. It has the memory and blah blah blah. All this. So some of these entities are abstract. Some are concrete. So we in databases we keep track of these entities. In this student portal system, we keep track of students, their registration, their accounts, teachers' information, their benefits and blah 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 all kind of things. So all these entities are represented as tables, just like we're looking at right there. Okay, that's a table right here. I don't want to move from here because then the speaker will not work. So in relational model, we represent each entity in table format. So in a table, we get rows and columns. We'll start looking at it in a little bit. Like I said, this is theory in just a little bit. When you start looking at practical things, you'll say, oh, okay, this is what it is. All right. Okay. And this is something we talked about in the last class, DDL, DML. When we talk to the database, we have to use a specific language. In our case, it's SQL, structured query language, right? And structured query language, it has many different types of things you can do with it. One is structuring the data, creating the structure to hold your data. That's done with DDL, data definition language. Then we get DML, data manipulation language. We just read data, delete data, update data, things like that. And then we got TCL, transaction control language. Transaction is very important. Let's say, somebody's transferring money to my account. All right, so there's an account information somewhere in the database, right? For me and then person A, let's say. So from person A's account, you deducted $500 to give me. So my account should be what? Plus 500, right? But let's say, unfortunately, after the software minused 500 from that guy's account, before it could plus my account, the power went out. What happens now? Where did the 500 go? It's in the black hole somewhere? No, it's not, because you already minused it from the database. And you didn't get a chance to pass mine. That's where you have to use it. This is called transaction. Transaction means when you have multiple steps in a process, either all the steps will go through correctly or none of them. You have to revert everything back to the way it was. That means either exactly if the power went out, power comes back on. He said, hey, this transaction got hung in the middle. So I need to put back everything the way it was. This is called transaction. So databases must provide this. Otherwise, we're going to have a huge issue. Huge issue. We're changing things, all of a sudden it didn't change the way it's supposed to change. Your database will be in a messed up situation. So we get transaction control language. When you develop applications, software, you see that you have to use it a lot. All right, you have to use it a lot. User registration, it's a transaction. Registration may be in multiple different parts. First, you get their email, then the phone number and the name. And then you start collecting more data. This is a transaction. You can stop right there. All the steps has to go through properly. So transaction language, transaction, and then the other one was, hold on, TCL, DCL. This is DCL is DCL or ACL. This is the access control. Okay. What now? Say that again. Describe it again. Oh, TCL, like I said, databases deal with transactions all the time, right? Let's say you're buying something from an e-commerce site. You added 5 products, and before you could check out, them gone. Like I said, you lost connection. So what happens at that moment with your account? You got 5 items added. I mean, is it complete or is it not? We do not know. Or is it going to be lost and you're going to come back and add those 5 items again? So this is where transaction comes in. Transaction keeps track of all the steps that has to go through, all the steps that must become successful so that the whole thing becomes successful. Just payment, payment process. This is the best example. When you transfer money from account to account, or you making payment, or you made payment, but the order did not get updated that you made the payment. But you made payment went through. But on their side, something happened, internet connection broke, whatever it is. On their side, they did not get a chance to update that you have made the payment and flag the order as paid. And you say, hey, I paid, why didn't you send me my stuff? So there are 2 steps here. You're making payments, all right? And that payment information has to be updated on their side, on the e-commerce side. They're in their database. So those 2 steps, if they don't go through, this transaction is not complete. So this is why databases has to ensure that both these steps go through. If it doesn't, what it will do is it's gonna, reimburse your money and call this transaction invalid. Then it's done. All right. Otherwise, you're gonna just lose money and there'll be miscommunications and stuff like that. Okay, is it clear? The data it uses, you'll see we have rollback, we have commit. Commit means okay, I'm done. All the steps are successful. Now you can actually write it to the database. You can make it permanent. But anything goes wrong in the middle, you can actually roll back. So database, what it does is that it does not actually write it to the database in the beginning. Like you said, the intermediate. There's an intermediate file. It's a logged file that it keeps track of. That, okay, these are the steps I have to do. These are the steps I have done successfully. These are the steps that are left to do. Something goes wrong, power went out. When power comes back up, it looks at the log and says, hey, for this transaction, I did step 1 and 2 and 3. Step 4 did not go through. So therefore, this transaction is invalid. Roll it back. Roll it back means go back the way it was. That's it. All right. So there, we'll deal with this. So another thing yes. Yeah, MySQL database management system. That's the software that will help you manage your data. We're going to start working on it in just a little bit. But you still haven't. Sheesh. All right. Okay. So see, here are some examples. We'll deal with it in just a little bit. After I'm done with this, I'm going to see if Edwin can help. So this is the data manipulation, DML. No, sorry, this is DDL, data definition language. the create is used to create a table or a relation where I can keep records, right? Keep information. Alter is for changing, blah, blah, blah. Don't worry about it too much now. We're going to start working on this. Okay, and then you get data manipulation, which is select is read, right? CRUD operation, remember? Create, read, update, delete. Then insert is you create. You're creating new data. You're putting new data in. Update, delete, Then you get call, merge. Call is for calling functions, blah, blah, blah. Then data control language, this is grant revoke. This is important. It's how you allow particular user access to particular data. You grant them access to some tables, you revoke their permission, to access those tables. So this is the DCL part I kind of forgot. And then TCL, you got the commit, the save point, rollback, blah, blah, blah. We'll look at all them. So that's another thing is the schema. We have to quickly go through this. When we talk about schema, I'm actually talking about the total structure of your database and how all the entities in your database are related together. Like a student's personal record, how is it related to her registration information? Throughout the last 3 semesters, what she took, what her results. So those are different entities, you're just putting them together, right? How all these relations, all the structures is defined in schema. And there is another term here, you'll hear a lot, that's why I'm just saying this, instances. There's a difference between schema and instances. Instances is at a particular moment, what information your database contains. In this room, in this particular moment, I have all these students. So that's the instance. But when I talk about, hey, I have this database class and I have so many students there, that's my schema. I'm saying this many students I have 1 to 3, I have 3 females and the rest of the males. This information, this is my schema. All right. But when actually at this moment, I have all these students here, that's my instance. So at any particular moment, you look at the database to see what data you got, that's your instance. Exactly. If the abstract term is just describes what you have, what entities you have, how they're related to each other. Okay? We'll start looking at it in just a little bit. All right. So what time did this class started? 2 o'clock. Okay, let's take a 5 minutes break because we're gonna start going through our what is that, VLab, right? Yeah, we're gonna go to VLab and we're gonna start working on certain things. VLab.westga.edu. But let's wait on that just a little bit. I'm gonna use the smart easy. First, let's do some work by hand first, then go to that. But we're gonna start using that. I'm gonna show you how to use that. Okay, no worries. All right. So take a little 2-minute break. Let me find out if Edwin can help you get going.
Yeah. It was a little bit weird. So, you did yours. Did yours ask you to manually find like visual studio? It is. Oh, let's go past it. Oh. That's my only thing I was gonna warn you about. And maybe
That's the try out see how they have to come like that. Roll out and try to come up with it. Oh, that's all. I'm doing it. Probably.
Oh, wait, I want to the middle. It's chapter one. Online. Or is it my supposed to be?
That one is that's up there.
I don't have to code any. I think it's fine.
There's no.
I don't have to make. If the code, if I just have all functions, that'll be fine. So you make it code changes. Expression so to give us the function we have to call. And
If you use the secure West, okay. Once you use that, it should ask you for your credential. But before that, let me ask you, do you have a key, any key? Have you ever used the Wi-Fi here before?
Yeah, I use that one.
So you should have a key. They send you a key over the email.
Okay.
That's the key you're supposed to use to get in, using the secure West.
That would be. The other one.
Did you connect?
Yeah, but I would, and a keyboard when I use my computer, which is broke. Didn't have to go through all that.
But this one more. Oh, that's good. Did you find it?
Your old.
I saw you were showing us the create, database, create, call function. So, so with that, and,
Where?
uh,
In the books?
yeah, the chapter where.
Oh, it's chapter one. That's the deal. That's the chapter we just went through. There you go.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
All right, now, you know what? It's not even connected and I've been doing the class. This is a shame. I thought it was connected. Yeah. All right. Did it work? So first, when you go to Secure West, does it ask for your credentials?
It asks for a key that you're given based on the well.
Yeah, that's the key. You have to keep throughout your semester. So you never wrote it down, right? All right, let's look at this. Let's say you have been hired to create a database, to give information about countries and their cities and their languages. So you start thinking about, well, how you're going to go about doing this. Let's say I need to keep country names, okay, and the capitals, right? And I need to keep the names of the cities, okay. Yeah, populations, and then I have population, and then I have to keep also information about the languages that are spoken in that country. So each country they got different variations of language, right? So let's give me a hard time on this. All right. So let's say countries, right? We're gonna name this. This is an entity. Remember that. Remember I told you? Yeah. Everything and anything is an entity. Okay. So we're keeping this country information. We decide that okay, we're gonna do this. We're gonna country name. All right, keep name. Then I say the capital, right? All right. Then I have cities, right? Okay. Then I have languages. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so this is how I'm going to. Let's say we got India, you say USA, blah blah blah, and then capital. Then you got cities. How are you going to keep the cities here? Comma separate them. So how are we going to keep the city information here? Let's say, see, this is a record. We talked about it a little bit ago. The record represents something, a particular something for somebody. So this record represents a country. This information is cities, its languages, its capital, its name, blah, 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 things like that, right? So this row, this is named many things. It's called row, it's called record, blah, blah, blah. It's called entity, all right? So by each entity, you get all these data items that represent, describe them, right? So now here, how we gonna, keep information here? We get this, and we also got population, right? All right. So once we start cities, I don't want the cities to be like this. Let's say here, you got Atlanta, right? You got Chicago. If you do that, you're gonna have a huge mass, right? So that is something I don't want to keep it this way. Do I?
No.
Languages, you got English, you got French, like that, right? So this is actually, this comma separated one is not a very good way to keep data. Because you're gonna have a hard time finding it. How many cities you got? I see, a lot, right? So we started thinking, okay, this is not the way we're gonna go. How are we gonna go? We're gonna do something like this. You're getting there. Let's say if we do it like this, oops. Why is this doing such a hard time? Okay, USA. We get one city, Atlanta, right? And the capital is something. Washington DC, right? Yeah. DC, right? And then what if I do it like this? I get USA again, Washington DC again, then I get Chicago, let's say. If I keep it like this, what will happen? Languages, same way, English, how? What is the problem with this schema? So this is a schema we work with.
Super long.
Exactly. We're gonna look at this. What will happen is this information here, something that represents the country itself, is getting duplicated. Okay, it's getting duplicated. We cannot have this duplication. For each city now, I have to duplicate the name of the country, then the capital of it, and the population of it. All right, data is being duplicated. So I cannot keep the data like that. I have to change the structure of it. How are we gonna change the structure? Best way to do is, I say, okay, you know what? These were guys giving me a hard time. I'm gonna just put him in different table, different place. I'm gonna make it its own entity. If you think about it, the city is in its own entity, right? Because it got a name, it got which state it is in, right? It got its population, blah, 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 all these things. So I can actually take these cities out from here and create something else. How are we gonna do that? We're gonna deal with language later on, okay? Let's forget language for now. You know what? Let's take it. All right, so now we got. Oh man, this thing is actually very hard to get used to. Something like this, let's say countries. We got countries, we got name, tab, and population, right? Simple. All right, so now we got USA, we got Mexico, things like that. Now we're gonna create another relation like this or table like this. It is called city. What are we gonna keep here? City name, then state, which state it is in, right? My question is now here, let's say, and the population, let's say. So this is Atlanta, and this is, let's say, DC, blah, blah, blah.
Which new country?
That's a good question. Now, since I have separated them out, right? How am I going to connect them to? How am I going to connect them to? I have.
Instead of just cities, you gotta like tell which cities it's like, USA cities or Mexican cities.
How do you propose that? Tell me. That's one way.
Instead of just naming it cities, you just name it a certain thing, I guess.
But then the real city name will be lost.
If you do like city, but USA.
Okay, so somebody said about keeping the name of the country here, right?
Right.
All right, so let's say, I add a tab for it, say country. And what am I going to put here?
Now you're going to connect that to any country.
Okay, and so USA, right? I put there USA, right? And then let's say Tijuana. I just read the news about Tijuana a little bit ago. Not a little bit ago, yesterday. Tijuana is in Mexico, right? And this is USA. Okay, so this is now I can relate. How? So this column here, relate here, right? I can say, okay, the country name is USA. All right, let's look up. Which rows here has the country name USA in it? Those are the cities of this country. Which names, which country, which rows have Mexico in here? So those cities, like this Tijuana, belongs to Mexico. So now I have this relation. I've added them together. I've connected them. All right. But there's a little bit of problem here too. Problem is that some countries are like Netherlands, like these huge names, right? You can easily make mistake there. This Mexico, somebody typed it in wrong. They left in Mexico, right? How we pronounce it in Spanish, Mexico. Accidentally typed it. It happens. When you type, do data entry, mistakes happen. If that happens, now this city is an orphan city now. Because it has no corresponding country over there. That's the problem. So what we need to do is, this is what we need to do. We need to actually add an identifier here. This is called primary key. Something that will uniquely identify each country. Okay, USA for now, let's say if we use character code, USA is USA. Mexico is, I think, MEX. The Olympics, if you watch the Olympics, you'll see the country, they have country codes, right? So MEX. Now here it becomes a little bit easier for me because, it became shorter, those country codes. If I put country code in here, then the error rate will go down. Because I'm not typing Netherlands or Great Britain or, things like South Korea, blah, 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 things like that. Long names means you have to do more typings. That means you are actually lending yourself to more error. All right, so we have now created codes for the countries. And each of these codes uniquely identify each of the countries. So this identifier is called primary key. Don't get too worried about if things are not making sense. You start looking at actual data in a little bit. Then you see, oh, okay, this is out. All right. So now we got the primary key or the identifier for each row in the country code. Now I can connect them to each of the cities. All right. Became easier. But in real life, we'll see actually we should not do that either. You know why we should not do that? Because there's still a lot of data that will be duplicated here. MEX takes 3 bytes. 3 bytes will be continuously, added here. Or you still can make error. MEX, somebody can type instead of X, type C. Why? ZXCV. Key codes are very close to each other, right? In the keyboard. So they can, actually make a mistake there. So instead of that, actually, we should use serial number.
Yes.
Huh? Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then it's number. And database will take care of it. We'll see how database take care of that. It's called auto increment number. Database will automatically generate these numbers for you. For first record, we'll get 1, next record 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like that. It's very unique. But anyway, so this is our current situation right now. With languages, we can do the same thing. Now we can create another language table. And name of the language, how many percent of the population speaks it, and the country code, right? Country code. So here you'll have USA, Mexico, blah, 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 things like that. So now you get 3 different entities. One represents languages, one represents the cities, and the mother of it all is the countries. That's the main table, main relation, main entity. So how many different names they are called by? You'll get confused sometimes. I get confused. Somebody calls it relation, somebody calls it table, somebody calls it entity, somebody calls it, blah, 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 things like that. So now we have 3 different entities. We're going to call them entities or tables. All right, interchangeable. Okay. So these 3 entities, now you can keep track of information that you need to keep track of in a clean way. Otherwise, we saw earlier that if you don't design it the proper way, you're going to have duplication of data all over the place. Yes, sir.
So there's multiple tables and entities in each table or entity.
Each table represents a type of entity.
Okay.
This table represents languages.
Okay.
Okay. And this table here represents cities.
Okay.
All right. And whatever you have inside, each of these rows, they represent different entities of the same category. Okay. Make sense? Any questions? No questions. Okay, that's good. So let's look at this same thing in our VLAN. Isn't it installed here? Hold on just a second. So you have to kind of like Horizon, if you go to vlab.osg.edu, it will ask you to either install the Horizon client or it will ask you to access through HTML. Don't do it through HTML. It's much slower because you're using the browser for it. not a client application. So it's much slower, plus the screen does not look okay. Okay, you won't understand a lot of times when what's there. So we do this, we open this V client up. So I'm already, since I'm already connected, vlab western.edu. Oh no, I have to log in. Yeah. We will ask you for your login. Did it work for you? Hey, sheesh. Western.edu. All right, so you got, this CS Windows Advanced Lab. That's what you're going to use. But I also asked you to install the MySQL, on your machine. I hope you have done it at home, because their instructions are in that syllabus. Come on, guys. All right, let's go to CS Windows Advanced Lab. Open it up. So these are virtual desktops for you, okay? You can use, and it got all the software that you will need for your class. All right, so here, if you come here, type MySQL, you'll see the workbench. Right. Remember this, I have said before, the database management systems are server software. Server means you are their client. You have to connect to them using the client software, which is your MySQL workbench. All right. So this is one client. MySQL has many clients, client software. So I open this up. If you notice here, you got a lot of things here. Databases tells you how many databases you got. You can connect to new databases. This is a client software. Let's say you have 3 different databases in 3 different server machines. You can connect from here. Okay, all right. So let's do this. We got this local instance, MySQL 80. Let's try to connect to it. This is the default, okay? All right, but no connection established. So that means you actually have a little bit of issue. The server is not running. You have to make the server run. How are you going to do that? So there's one way you can do it is with the startup shutdown, okay? But that I ran into issues with. So I always go through backdoors. I mean, it's you should know it too. If you do type services, type the word services in your start, that takes you all the programs that runs in your system in background. MySQL Server is one of them. You have to go to services, and then if you just type see that MySQL Server is not running. It says start, right? If it was running, you'd see stop or pause, something like that here. So what I'm going to do is just click on start this server. That's much faster for you. All right. Okay, there was, you see, MySQL 80. If you have it here. What's wrong, man? So I got this server running now. Everybody found it? All right. So now if I go back here and do a reconnect. All right. See, this is the, okay, good. Just do okay. You'll see now you're connected. Now there's no issues here. So there are 2 tabs here that you need to be concerned about. One is this, your administration tab. This is where you manage all the databases that you have. You can create users, you can check client connections, client connections. So I'm connected right now as a root, I'm pretty sure. Okay, so these are my connections here right now. So all this is for managing the servers here. And then you get server logs to see if anybody's trying to snoop around. messing around, somebody trying to hack through the back door or something like that. Okay, so this is where you do management. This is something we are not going to concentrate in this course. Okay, this is something you should try out, become an expert of it, because DBAs do make good money. If you know how to become a database administrator, doing these tasks here, managing users, managing databases, things like that, you can earn good money out there. All right, so this is something we're not gonna touch, but we're interested in this. See the schemas? Yes, sir. You just go here, see the databases. Here you can connect to multiple databases. You can create new connections, So if you go to manage connections, you can, just go to connect to database and it'll show you the default one. Just click OK. Okay. Laptop's frozen. Why don't you try using one of those? You forgot the key. All right. Okay. So we are interested in the schemas. Schemas will tell you what database you have. Now we are actually touching the actual real things that we have talked about all this time. If you notice, there's Sakila, there's Sys, there's World. Okay. The World is the one that we talked about a little bit ago. A little bit ago, we talked about this. Shakila is another database. Databases, I talked about that one database management system can handle many databases. Each database actually represents one type of business. Like in this university system, you may have an accounting database completely separate. You may have a student database completely separate. Okay. So things like that. All right. So we are going to deal with this World database. So this is your database. If you notice here, there are like queries you can run. This is the query window right here. Nothing is written here. Let me try something out. All queries will end with semicolon. Remember that. All right. So, and if you type a query and then you click on this, that will run the query for you. See, it shows us all the databases that currently this one is handling. Some of them are hidden. You can't see. Okay. This MySQL hidden. All right. You can see that. But it deals with all this. All right. So show database is a command for MySQL. It shows all the databases that this particular software is right now handling. All right. And then to go to a particular database, you can just simply click on that, choose it, select it, Shakila or Word or Sys, or we go to Word. That is selected now. If I do show tables, this will, and then run this query, it will show all the tables. Oh, this is not selected actually. Now it's selected. It's bold now. See that I double clicked on it, it got selected. So now it's bold. It's in bold. Now if you run this query, it gives you the tables that we got. We get the same tables that we talked about a little bit ago: country, city, country, language, right? So you get these tables. Or, if you don't have anything selected here, you can actually change databases by using the command use Shakila, let's say. If you do that, run this query, Shakila will be, misspelled it. Shakila will be selected. See, it's got bold now. So you can do it two different ways. I want you to learn two different ways because it's much more powerful is the command you're typing in. All right. Because let's say sometimes what will happen is that if you forget the root password, every database management system has a root user or the big boss, right? It got all controls. It can destroy everything. Let's say you forget that. You won't be able to manage this database anymore. What do? There are backdoors to go through it. And for that, you need command line. Okay, so that's when you're gonna, that's a different thing. I'm not gonna deal with it here. So now let's go back to Word, Shakila. Now, if you click on tables, it'll show you all the tables that this database has, or all the entities, or all the relations, right? So we get 3 entities here, or 3 relations, or 3 tables here. One is the country. If you click on country, if you click on its columns, it'll show you all the columns, all the data items that represent something about a country, right? So these columns, if you look at, it got code, it got name, code is the country code that we talked about, blah, blah, blah. How do we look at data? You can right click on it and do select rows, limit 1000. That means get the first 1000 records or information about the first 1000 countries in this table. Each row is a country, right? Remember? So let's do this. Select that. We did that. See that all the country information is here now. You get ABW, but interesting thing is we are not going to use this. We're going to learn the commands. So when I read data, the command is select, S-E-L-E-C-T. If you notice, this command is written right here. Okay, so this is the command that was run. All right, so you can now run this command again. You'll run again, and show you the same data again. Okay, so same way, can I do this? I want to see the cities. Select, then star. Star means everything. Give me all the info. And then we got from. From means which, from tells you which entity or which table you want to get the data from. So this is the thing here. Select star from cities. If you do that, if you run it, then there is a little bitty issue I ran into. There is no table called cities. Is there? It's city, right? Yes, very good. Now I do that. Now I got all the cities information, right? So, and then if you notice the country code. All right, this is the same country code that is in the country table. This is how you're relating them. Yes.
So as far as select keyword we have to use.
Yes. This is one of the SQL command, SQL command for reading data. We're reading data now. We're finding out what's in this table. Okay. You could do this too. Instead of star, you could do name, comma, population. Right? Oops. Show you that here. Population. Say you want to see only two things, the name and the population. If you do that, if you run it, you'll see that your data will become what? Condensed. It got only two information here, each city and their population. So the star and the names are actually represent what columns or what attributes you're looking at. Okay, you want to look at. So I wanted to look at name and population, so I typed them in there. But if I change it back to star, then I get everything. All right. If you go to city and look at the columns, you see you get ID, name, country code, district, population. These 4 columns. Okay. Clear? Any question? Could you get in? Okay. So, all right, cool. So this is the data we're looking at now. Then if you go to language, but one little thing I'll tell you right here, this city, sometimes it is important to specify which database this city table belongs to. Okay. So you need to actually, it's best to put this. World is the name of the database. City is the name of the table. So you want to look at the city table inside the world database. So do run. Hey, what did I do? Oh, yeah. Right there. So I had whatever I selected, it tried to run. See right here, if I have this selected, when I click on it, it tries to run the selected portion. But selected portion doesn't have the Y at the end, right? So it's a CIT. There is no table called CIT. So it gives you an error. So if you run that, you get this. So this is actually a good way. Get it in your practice. Specify which database, which table. This is called fully qualified name. All these will start making sense soon.
So we were in the database.
Uh-huh.
That would go.
You're just going to change it to Sakila dot. If you have, see, Sakila got actor, address, category, city, country, blah, blah. You can choose any one of these. Let's say actor, right? And then you run this query. It'll actually run a query against what? Sakila database. Against which table? Actor table. Okay? So this is your select query. We just got introduced today a little bit. And this is how you see, always remember, table keeps data in rows and columns. Each row represents a particular something, and each column represents something about that particular something. So that means the whole column actually describes somebody. Like here, this first row here.
Calling of the caps. Do I have caps or can I use it?
Which one? This select?
Yes, like.
Is what we do is it's a standard practice. The keywords, the commands, we put them in capital, capital letters, all caps. Okay, then we select, then start, and you get the from. From is also a keyword. From tells you which table you're trying to look into. So select start from Sakila.actor. I want you guys, as we're running out of time, I want you guys to start playing around with this. Okay. And also look at lecture 2. We're going to start, we're going to have to start delving deeper into this thing soon. We're going to repeat kind of with every class. I'll try to do a bit of review of what we did before in the previous class. So that will kind of help us, stay on top of things. Okay. So, so MySQL, any questions here? I know you have a lot of questions. A lot of people are scratching their heads and stuff like what is going on. But you start playing around with it, you'll start making sense. You keep in data, you think about this. You think about this. This same data, you have the actor ID, first name, last update. If you had a notebook like this one, okay, you created rows and columns. And then you put the same data in here like that. Remember I told you one time we used to use notebooks to keep data. Just like this. We drew rows and we do columns. And each column, we put the information that we want to keep. Okay. All right. So this is just a digital version of that. Okay. All right. Any questions you got? Yeah, please go to the slide for the second one. Yes, sir. Okay, yeah. First, so that when you come to next class, then we can go through that. But we're gonna start doing. I'm trying to manage how we can do a little bit more hands-on, so that we learn these things, because queries are awesome things. You'll be surprised the type of information you can pull out from a database. And this is where the power is. A couple of days ago, one of my relatives, he works for FedEx. He was looking for fresh graduates. All they need to know is SQL. That's a 70K job. He said, nothing, just SQL. If they know SQL, we'll be happy. We'll teach them the rest of it. Because FedEx deals with a lot of data. So concentrate on that, okay? Thank you all very much. The laptops, please return them. Where did my Google? Huh?
She was like, what do you do? I'm like, I just sit there and there's always somebody call.
No problem. Thank you. Y'all have a good one.
Yeah, I wanted to say real quickly, sorry about slowing down the class.
Huh?
Sorry about slowing down the class.
No. That's no problem, man. We're gonna all try to work together. Nobody left behind. Okay. What is